This is the practice. When we talk about the actual steps that it takes in order to achieve enlightenment, this is the step-by-step instruction that I'm going to go through during this video right here. This is the practice that I did to have every single enlightenment experience that I've ever had. And it is called self-inquiry. What self-inquiry actually is it is a step-by-step process that you have to go through of asking questions and looking for the actual made up you inside of your mind. You claim that you exist. The purpose of self-inquiry is it is an empirical process for you to actually look and see that you do not actually exist. So the point of self-inquiry is not, oh, I'm gonna look and look and look in my mind, and then I'm eventually gonna find myself, or maybe come to a rational answer in my head that says, oh, maybe that's what I am inside of that head. That's not what self-inquiry is at all. Self-inquiry is basically the practice of looking and looking and looking and looking, and finally, when you see and discover and experience the fact that there's not actually a you inside your head pulling on all the levers and all the strings that you think you do, there's an exact moment that you discover, oh my God, I'm not actually here at all, and there is no me that physically exists in reality. Not in the head, not in the body, not as a thinker of the thoughts, not as the image of the face in my head, not as the face as the body, not as the feelings in the body. I finally just broke something inside of my psyche and realized that I am not actually in this thing at all. You know that self-inquiry has worked not when you reach some rational conclusion in your mind and say, oh, maybe that's the thing that I am. Self-inquiry has worked when you have had a physical change inside of your body. Something physical has happened to your body. You will physically experience yourself leaving the body. Now, when I say this, I don't mean, oh, having like an out-of-body experience where people who astral project say, oh, I flew above my body and I was looking for my body down below. What I'm saying is something much more radical than that. It's not like you leave your body as in you go somewhere. It's that the you that you think is located inside your body completely disappears from reality. This body then becomes a walking corpse with no one inhabiting it. Do you see how utterly shocking that can be? This is not something that it's like, well, maybe I think I have become enlightened, or that could possibly be what enlightenment is, or maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. No, you're going to be very, very, very sure when this happens. If you think that you've possibly gotten it, you have not gotten it. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking inside the head for this you by asking ourselves a series of empirical questions to try to discover where that exact you is. And while you're asking yourself these questions, this is the most important part right here, you're going to be looking with your awareness at these different points that these questions are asking you. And this will make sense in a second when I give you a live demonstration. Because the thing is, you could be thinking and thinking and thinking and pondering, and you could be wasting days, weeks, months, or even years of your life by just thinking. And every time you're just thinking and not actually looking, this is getting you absolutely nowhere. So when I say looking, I don't necessarily mean with your eyes. This has nothing to do with your eyes. I'm talking about looking with your awareness. And I'll give you an example of what looking with your awareness is. So for example, if you close your eyes right now, we're just gonna say close the eyes because I wanna demonstrate to you how I don't mean looking with your eyes. So we're gonna completely eliminate the field of vision. So you're gonna close your eyes right now and notice that there's different types of sensations in your body, the five senses. So notice how you can shift your focus and attention to each one of those sensations with your eyes closed. If I tell you, focus on the taste of your mouth, you're looking with your awareness at the taste in your mouth. You're not paying attention to the noises around the room or the feelings in the body. You're looking with your awareness at the taste in your mouth. And then if I say switch to a sound of the clock or the fan going in your room, notice how you remove the looking from the taste in your mouth and you focus on the sound in that room. And then I say, now I want you to look with your awareness at the feelings in the body. Then you're going to switch your awareness to the feelings in the body. That's what I mean by looking. It's putting the awareness on whatever I ask you to, putting your awareness on that and seeing how it specifically works. Now, a lot of people reach spiritual enlightenment in a lot of ways. That can be meditation, different types of yoga, self-inquiry, dark room retreats. There's a bunch of different methods right there, even methods that you've never heard of. But this is the method that actually gave me my enlightenment experience. So I am actually someone who is giving you instruction on how to do this as someone who has successfully done it before. How long will this take you? Well, you should be doing it at least an hour every single day. If you commute to work or school or something like that, or maybe just take an hour of your day as soon as you get home, laying in bed, and you're going to do this practice, which I'm going to describe to you in a second. And it could take months, possibly, I think would be the earliest, or maybe years. Personally, for me, I did self-inquiry almost every single day for about 3 years. So yes, this is not some get rich quick scheme or get enlightened quick scheme. I'm not here to rip you guys off or scam you in any way. This is something that if you're serious about it, it takes a lot of effort. For me, it personally took 3 years of doing this every day. And like I said, self-inquiry is a combination of asking empirical questions in your head and looking to verify the answer of these questions. And once you land on a logical conclusion as to what you think that answer is, so you land on a feeling in the head, and then you might go, oh, okay, so that's where I am. It's like almost like you're searching for an object or a sensation inside of your head to find out eventually, oh, maybe I'm that thing. That's not the point of self-inquiry. What self-inquiry does is its only value, its only goal is to get you to see, once you have gone through every possible answer that you can come up with to figure out what you think you are, or more specifically, where you think you are located, and you have disproved every single one of those things that you've came up with. The goal of self-inquiry is you will finally break. You will crack something in your psyche. At that moment, enlightenment will happen. That is when you have realized and you have discovered on a metaphysical scale that you are absolutely none of these things that you're looking at. The moment you realize on a physical level that you are none of these things is when that snap will finally happen, and then you'll go, whoa, and you'll realize for the first time that you are actually not located inside the body, and you will feel the physical sensation once this happens of you disappearing from the inside of the body. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do self-inquiry for a couple minutes, and I'm going to show you what that process of asking and looking actually looks like. So let's begin. At first, it really starts off with you disidentifying with the majority of your body. For example, if you cut off a finger, or if you cut off a hand, or if you cut off a leg or a shoulder or something like that. This is not that hard to disprove. The majority of people will say, oh, that's not me, because if I cut off one of my limbs or something like that, then I probably will still exist. I could get a heart transplant and I probably would still exist. So I don't really think I'm the heart. And then I look deeper and go, am I the brain? And I say, well, people have got surgery, remove parts of their brain before, so I don't know exactly which part of the brain I am, but I do call this brain my brain. I'm saying that it belongs to somebody. Is that somebody that I'm looking for, is it inside the brain? If I own this brain and this brain is my brain, then how can I be inside of the brain if this so-called I owns the totality of the brain? Can I really be a specific part inside the brain, but own that part too? That wouldn't make any sense. Like, is it a me inside the brain that I don't own, and then the rest of the brain I own? No, I'm saying that every part of the brain I own. So where is this I or owner of that brain? And you see, I'm looking deeper and deeper and deeper and trying to see in my awareness where possibly that owner could be. If I own this whole part of, if I own the entire brain, then what is that thing kind of outside the brain or excluding the brain that owns the whole thing? And then you look a little deeper and deeper and deeper, and then you realize, oh, hold on a second. I am the one thinking the thoughts. I am the one choosing the thoughts. And you look and you look and you look and you try to find a chooser of these thoughts. Is there really a chooser of my thoughts? Before I pick a thought, is there like a whole catalog of like potential words or thoughts that I say? And then I like look through this catalog and then like choose the next one that I could say, or no? or isn't there? I'm going to look to see if there is a catalog in my head. Maybe I'm going to say a word and in my head, and then I'm going to think, did I choose that thought? And then a word's going to pop into my head and I'm going to say, yes, you chose that thought. But what about the words, yes, you chose that thought? Did you choose that thought too? What about the words that are presently coming out of my mouth as I'm talking? The words that are coming into my head as I'm talking. These ones right now, these ones right now. If we're doing this live, I'm talking about the ones currently coming out of my mouth as I say it. There is no one there choosing every single one of these thoughts, is there? There was just a stream of thoughts that are coming, and I'm getting confused because when I'm looking for the thoughts, I'm saying, I just chose that one. But what about that sentence? I just chose that one. And you're looking deeper and deeper and deeper and trying to see if you can predict the next thought that is coming into your head. You're watching and looking for that choosing process that you think is going on. And as you're looking deeper and deeper and deeper at that choosing process, you might ask yourself, where is that located? And then a lot of you people, you actually identify with a feeling in your head. For me, it's in the back of my head. I identify with a feeling there, I've noticed. And that's like a hard obstacle for me to get over when I'm doing self-inquiry. So then I ask, how is that feeling in the back of my head me? I'm looking. I'm not just thinking, I'm watching the whole process. And then I say, well, I am located in my head, and then that feeling inside my head is producing the dialogue of the thoughts that I'm choosing. Look, I can feel myself in the back of the head, so obviously that's where the thoughts are being picked and choose from. That's where the me is located inside of. But is that really a me? Like when I'm asleep, I don't necessarily feel the back of my head, but I still exist, right? So I'm thinking more and more and more about, is there actually a person inside of a feeling in the back of my head, or is that just a feeling? And then I might say, oh, look, I actually can see like an image of like a me inside the back of my head. Okay, so maybe that's me. And then I think, no, wait, that's an image. I'm imagining an image. That image in my head is just an image. That's not the actual me. And then when we talk about enlightenment, we talk about these three strings that come together and they become a knot. The images of the body or the face in your head, the thoughts and dialogue saying me, my, and then the feelings of the body. So another thing you'll have to do some self-inquiry on is you'll close your eyes and then you'll I'll say picture you, and you'll picture an image inside of your head of maybe your face. What you have to do is you have to disidentify from that image. You have been trained your whole life. When I say picture you picture the image of the face. And then I'll say to you, no. That's an image of the face. That's just a body part on the body. Do you actually look like that? Is that what you look like? Or is this just a picture of your face you're imagining? So what you realize slowly is that image of the face in your head, when I ask you to picture you, that just happens to be an image. We're not getting any closer to figuring out what you are or where you are. What's happening is there's a picture of your face. When did we add this you inside of that? There's just a picture of the face floating in the thoughts. It's like if I told you to picture your hand in your head, you'd close your eyes and say, that's not me, that's just like my hand. Well, this is what we have to teach you about that image of the face. This is not you, this is just the face, the image of the face. Ultimately, the most progress I've ever had doing self-inquiry, what I most think that I am when I am under the illusion of a self, is that I am a thinker attached to the feelings in the head. And when you go and you watch and you look to see if there's an actual choosing process of those thoughts, you can finally discover that there is literally no chooser. You are not going through this whole choosing process of choosing the next word you're going to say. I'll give you a description of what the actual enlightened self is. So imagine there is an empty room. There is nobody inside of this empty room, but there is this little machine sitting on a table. What this machine does is it can print pictures and it plays radio, but there's nobody in this room. So imagine empty room, just this little machine on a table. And as this machine is working, it's printing images of a face, and the dialogue, the audio coming out of this radio is the voice of a human saying, hello, hi, this is me. I am the radio. I am the pictures. I am inside of this machine. These are my words. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I want to go home. I want a better job. I am aware. My name is Steve. That audio is playing out of this radio as the images of a face are being printed out of this machine. But here is the trick. Is there somebody inside of that machine that is printing the pictures or saying the words? It certainly could sound like that because the dialogue coming out of the speakers is saying, I am this machine. I am whoever. I am thinking these thoughts. Those are all words playing out of the radio. However, is there a person or an entity or a sentient being inside of that radio? No, it's just the way that the technology is playing inside of that radio. This radio is programmed to print pictures and play audio on its own without a sentient being or little mini creature inside of that machine. If that machine was doing its thing right there, I would point at that machine and say, tell me where the person inside of that radio is. You would say to me, what are you, stupid? It's just a dumb, dead radio. It's not alive in any way. There's not a sentient thing inside of that machine doing the words or the images. It's literally just a dumb, dead, brute machine which has no one in it. It's just mechanics working, but there's not like a person or any creature inside of there. So that's what I'm saying you are. Well, there is no you, but when I point at the body, you magically think that there's a you that's inside of that head thinking the words and like controlling the actions and thinking the images and whatnot. When in reality, you're just like that hypothetical machine that I was just talking about. It's almost like the brain is playing words and images on its own mechanically, but there was no sentient creature located anywhere inside of the head that's actually doing those things. That is definitely another big portion of self-inquiry that you really need to spend hours and days and weeks thinking about. Is the difference between a little radio saying the words me, my, but no one actually being inside of it, but somehow there's a body right here and there's thoughts saying me, my inside of this head. But for some reason, there's not a sentient creature inside of that radio, but there's a sentient creature inside of this head. So that's like a whole lot to think about. And you might ask yourself, well, the only difference is like a radio cannot produce consciousness and like a brain can produce consciousness. So like that's why I think that there's a me inside of the head. Consciousness is not a byproduct of biology. It's not like there's dumb objects which aren't conscious, like rocks, trees, cars, planets, and things like that. And then there are sentient beings running around which have consciousness, like humans, cats, dogs, and monkeys. But consciousness is a material. And when I say a material, I mean literally. When I say, what is a shirt made out of? You're going to say, oh, it's made out of cotton. That's the material that it's made out of. And then when I tell you, like, look a little deeper, like, what's the most fundamental building block of this shirt? Or what's the most fundamental building block of anything? Like, look at a table in your room. What is the most fundamental building block material that that object is made out of? And you're going to say atoms. That's not true. The most fundamental material that everything is made out of is not atoms. It goes more fundamental than that. The material, the building block to every single object and thing inside of your room that you're sitting in right now, including your body, is consciousness. Consciousness is not a phenomenal thing. It's not a thing that only sentient beings have. Consciousness is an impersonal material that every single thing is made out of. So when I talk about enlightenment, the only thing that exists inside of this room, it's an empty bubble, an empty field of consciousness, and there's not a sentient being located anywhere that is experiencing that. So this is what self-inquiry is essentially all about. You need to do that exercise that I just showed you of the thinking, asking questions, trying to find the thinker, and the looking for the thinker, and then using helpful analogies such as the radio one I was talking about, really thinking, mulling over every single little detail about that example of the radio that I said, and breaking it down and picking apart and looking at it further and further and further, deeper and deeper. And once you finally experience enlightenment, like I said, it's not some logical conclusion that you're going to have. What's going to happen is like the first event that's going to take place that shows that you have actually cracked this code is you are going to experience yourself disappearing from the inside of the body. Not figuratively, not metaphorically, but literally. Because what you have done when you have finally seen it and experienced it is your brain on its own has radically reinterpreted the you out of existence. And that physically feels like a radical disappearance. The body is completely hollow now. There is nobody inside of the hands going like this, fitting the hands like a glove. There is like no soul or ghostly outline of a human that is puppeting these hands and moving them around. There are many different methods to become enlightened, but this by far was my most powerful one. I was never good at meditating, but I was always good at thinking. And I eventually trained myself to be better at looking. So that thinking while looking at the same time, that's a skill that you're going to have to build up in order to do this practice correctly.